Hello, and welcome to this special episode of The Switch. My name is Lindsay Otto, Nonprofit HR's Marketing and Communication Associate for Editorial and Content. We have a great episode in store for you today. You will hear from another excellent woman named to Nonprofit HR's 2023 Social Impact Women to Watch list. Each year during Women's History Month, we proudly recognize women across North America who have made significant contributions to the social sector, including nonprofits, associations, foundations, social enterprises, and the communities that they serve. This special series of The Switch features the 24 finalists named to this year's list due to their extraordinary leadership, unwavering dedication, and impactful achievements. In this episode, Atokatha Ashman Brew, Managing Director for Marketing and Strategic Communication at Nonprofit HR, sits down with Ellen Voie, founder of Women in Trucking Association. They catch up and learn more about Ellen's stellar contributions to the sector. Ellen Voie is an internationally recognized speaker and authority on gender diversity and inclusion for women working in non-traditional careers in transportation. She has been invited to speak to audiences in Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, France, Mexico, and Canada, in addition to being a popular speaker at conferences throughout the United States. She has also been interviewed by major news networks, including Fox News, Bloomberg News, and Voice of America. Ellen founded the Women in Trucking Association in March of 2007 with a mission to promote the employment of women in the trucking industry, to remove obstacles that might keep them from succeeding, and to celebrate the successes of its members. I welcome you to share this production in your communities. You can find this recording anywhere you get your podcasts or at nonprofithr.com/The Switch. Now, without further ado, here's Atokatha and Ellen.
Well, hello, Ellen, and thank you so much for being on this episode of The Switch by Nonprofit HR. And congratulations again for making the 2023 Women to Watch list for social impact. What a prestigious honor.
Well, thank you. I am honored, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Before we jump in, can you just share a little about the Women in Trucking Association, a little about your mission and the work that you all are doing in the social impact space in general?
Thank you. Women in Trucking was formed in March of 2007. I actually am the founder as well. And the mission is threefold. It's to encourage the employment of women in the trucking industry, to address obstacles that might keep women from either entering or succeeding in the industry. And the third part is to celebrate success, which means sharing stories and highlighting pioneers. We grew from 0 in 2007 to, we have about 8,000 members in 10 countries. And what I'm really proud to say is that about 15% of our members are men, and they join because they support our mission. So we represent women. I like to say the women who design the trucks, build the trucks, sell the trucks, fix the trucks, own the trucks, and drive the trucks. So it's all women who we represent in the industry. So it's really to empower and lift up women in the supply chain.
Wow. I mean, just, incredibly impressive. The growth is just astronomical. I mean, kudos to you and your team and community for creating such a significant impact, and to be able to draw men in as well to support your mission is incredible. Why now? What was the compelling need to start Women in Trucking in the first place?
Well, I was working for a large carrier. I was the manager of recruiting and retention programs. And they said, figure out how to attract and retain non-traditional groups. And one of the groups they wanted me to focus on, and this was back in 2006, was women. And the industry wasn't really making a conscious effort to bring more women in at any level. The response I would hear is, oh, well, we just hire the best person. And then when I point out, well, there isn't really a level playing field. The trucks were designed for men. The truck stops were designed for men. Their uniforms were designed for men. It wasn't a level playing field. I didn't have a lot of data on what women bring to the industry, but I do now. And women are more risk averse. And so who would you like in the cab of an 80,000 pound vehicle, but somebody who is avoiding risk, or in the C-suite as a director, somebody who might have a different perspective. So I'm just thrilled that the industry has changed their perspective and said, now we see the value women bring, help us understand how we can accommodate, attract, and retain women.
Wow. I mean, I just love it. I love the risk aversion part and its association with women. Can you share more of the data, the things that are really unique to the women population and how that has been a benefit to the trucking community?
Well, I can tell you that when I started Women in Trucking, there was about 3% female drivers, and we're just under 14% now. So that's changed. And women make up about 24% of all management positions now in the trucking industry. We're even monitoring the publicly traded companies. But what I can say that women bring to the industry, in addition to being risk averse, I'll talk about drivers first. Male commercial drivers are 20% more likely, actually 14% more likely to be involved in a crash than a female commercial driver. And female commercial drivers are typically better with customers, better with equipment, easier to train. Now that companies are saying, wow, they have a better, safety record. Again, who would you want in front of 80,000 pounds sharing the road with you as someone who is a safer driver? And then in the office, women make great safety managers and great, dispatchers. So I'm seeing a lot more women go into those roles than in the past as well. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities. And the other thing that's really interesting is we're seeing a lot of women taking classes in college in supply chain. You didn't even hear the term supply chain 15, 16 years ago. And now people are actively getting a degree in supply chain. So to me, that's very exciting.
That's just fantastic. And I think that when people hear trucking, they may just see people in the cabs, people driving. How broad is the career, spectrum for women? Are there many types of opportunities that women are discovering now?
Oh, absolutely. And we're seeing a lot more women in brokerage, starting, and we call them, 3PLs, companies that manage the loads, brokering loads, but also in warehousing. We're seeing a lot more women in warehousing as well. And not just in working in the office, but driving forklifts and helping unload the freight and things like that. So there's so many opportunities. And here's the positive thing. Women in non-traditional careers typically make more money than women in traditionally, pink collar careers. So, when you're driving a truck, you're not paid 88 cents on the dollar that men make. You're paid the same as what somebody with the same level of experience, the same safety record of the same company, you're paid by the mile, by the load, by the hour or whatever. There's no gender disparity.
Thank you for that, and for elevating that fact or those facts. Also, with 8,000 members, I'm pretty sure there's a diverse set of needs that you all are working to satisfy and respond to. How are you all doing that?
The biggest thing is getting data. We want to be a resource. We have white papers. We have an anti-harassment employment guide. We have the Women in Trucking Index. We also have a same gender training policy white paper. We have white papers on safety and how to attract and retain female commercial drivers. So we want to be the resource for the industry so that they come, and the government. I serve on some Department of Transportation committees. So we want to be the resource that they come to us and say, help us better understand this specific need and how we can empower women.
Yeah. And earlier you talked a little bit about how you found your way in the industry. Can you talk about the unique qualities that you bring to the community and how that has helped to build the success that you all are experiencing?
Well, the number one quality that I bring is my passion. I truly have a passion for the people side of the trucking industry, especially for women. I want to see women succeeding. I want to see women advancing. I want to see women working in non-traditional careers, lifting them up and, forming a sisterhood, so to speak, offering mentors, offering resources, offering information and networking opportunities so that all women in this industry can find success.
Yeah. And how are you bringing others along? It's a tall task, and it's so exciting and refreshing to hear that you had 8,000. Is it organization-based or is it people-based in terms of your membership?
Actually, both. We are a trade/professional. So we do have individuals, so a driver could join, but then on my board, I have Walmart and Daimler and, Amazon and, some big companies. So it's from a student up to huge organizations.
Wow. What an unmet need that you tapped into and could see it spread like fire, like wildfire, So how are you bringing others along to help mobilize around some of the initiatives that you still need to put in place, but have sort of been waiting for the right time or the right atmosphere to put those things into action?
So some of the things that we're doing, I'm really proud of our new driver ambassador program. We had a trailer donated to us and we had a simulator donated. And so we take this, a female driver takes this trailer, and it's a superhero on the side of the trailer, around to places like trade shows or schools or events. We just did one in Rhode Island so that people can walk through, and it's a hands-on learning environment. There's touch screens, there's videos of female drivers talking about what they do in a day, but also the other jobs that are available in trucking. I found out that the Boy Scouts had a supply chain patch and the Girl Scouts didn't. So we worked with the greater Chicago, Northern Indiana region and created a supply chain patch. And over 1,200 maybe girls have now earned that patch. And along with the patch is an activity book that talks about how the grain goes from the field to the bakery in a truck, bakery to packaging in a truck, that sort of thing. And then the other thing, to reach the next generation, we created a truck driver doll. We sold them out. They're all gone. But we had a truck driver doll. Wow. So we really want to get our message out to an early age that there's great careers in this industry and that women can do it.
Has gender inequity or gender bias in any way been important to you throughout your life? Is that something that you've always been concerned with or observed?
Oh, absolutely. I was a product of the 70s, and I was one of those who said, I want to go to a shop class. I want to take industrial arts. I want to learn home economics because my mom can teach me those. And so I learned welding and drafting and things like that. And I do have my commercial driver's license. I also have a pilot's license and a motorcycle license. I did that as well. So
we all bow down.
So I've always been in the area that, where typically you would say it's more male populated, but I feel comfortable there. But I want to address the other part that this industry has not been very aware of up until the last couple of years. But talk about gender diversity and inequity. A few years ago, I said, we call ourselves the voice of gender diversity. And what is this industry doing for the LGBTQIA community? So I formed a task force. We had members of the LGBTQIA community on there. We even had a transgender driver as our member of the month. We had a panel at our conference that was run by Dr. Jennifer Hurley, who's from Trans New York. And it was well attended. And she recently did a webinar for us on how to be a more inclusive employer. Gender diversity goes beyond, putting more women in trucks. It means embracing the entire spectrum, put it that way.
Wow. And so I'm taking it that there is an element of advocacy associated with your mission as well. Have you been making strides there?
Yeah, we don't do a lot of legislative advocating. Sure. A little bit. One of the things that we do is we do ride-alongs. And so we give our elected officials and our legislators and our regulators rides in a truck with a female commercial driver, and let them talk about a day in their life and how their rules affect them. So we've given the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administrator and senators and Congress people rides in trucks and let them learn a little bit more about the industry that they're regulating. As far as advocacy, that I like to say we educate.
I love it.
Looking to integrate talent into your mission strategic plan? During annual strategic planning, organizations often overlook what talent is needed to meet their goals. Partner with Nonprofit HR for your organization's talent management needs. We offer HR outsourcing and project-based consulting, including strategy and advisory, retained search, total rewards, and equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice. We also offer customized trainings for your workforce. Join the many social impact organizations that have trusted Nonprofit HR to help them increase mission impact through their people. Visit nonprofithr.com.
So you're a 501c3, C6.
Women in Trucking Association is a 501c6, which means a trade professional organization. And so we're supported by dues. But we have a sister organization, which is the Women in Trucking Scholarship Foundation, which I founded about 2010. And they give out scholarships to women seeking careers in supply chain areas.
Wow. I mean, what would you say is the most important thing you have learned as a leader in this space?
The most important thing I would say is when you are a woman in a very male populated environment, you have to establish your credibility. And that means you have to walk the walk. You can't just say you're going to do something and not do it. The year I started Women in Trucking, people were watching and they told me they were watching. If you don't do what you say you're going to do, then we won't renew. I had to really, get up and running and establish the credibility of both myself and the organization so that people would believe that we are doing what we're saying we're doing. But I learned that once you do establish that credibility, people defer to you as a leader.
I mean, it sounds like you've got a spirited bunch and people who they're going to let you know how they really feel or what they're thinking, which is great. You don't have to guess at it, right?
Right. That could be good or bad, right?
Yeah, you know right away, I guess.
As a member-based organization, though, we represent our members. So I have to know what our members' needs are and what they're thinking. And we have surveys. I speak at events. We do a couple of events. We do an annual salute to women behind the wheel, where we honor female commercial drivers. And then in the fall, in November each year, we have our annual conference. And I am so proud. Last year, we had almost 1,800 registered attendees, and that's up from 800 the year before.
Wow.
So if we're more than doubling at our conference, we must be doing something right.
It's just fantastic. All that you are sharing, it's so very empowering. And I heard you mention earlier about talent retention being a part of your background. What is your people management philosophy in engaging and retaining mission-driven talent?
Well, it's listening. It's listening. What are your needs? What is this industry not offering, or what can we do to make this industry more female friendly? Whether it's a driver or somebody, working their way up in management, it's listening and saying, what are the challenges you're facing and how can we help you, or how can we match you with someone who's been through those challenges and empower you?
In terms of people management and the impact that it has had on your organization through all of your growth, what role have you seen people management play in advancing your mission through your people?
First of all, we're a virtual organization, and right now we have about 13 staff people, but that includes both women in trucking staff and our association management firm. So my management style is very hands-off, but I'm also one of those that I'm the visionary, I'm the entrepreneur. And so my staff, when I say, okay, like the Girl Scout patch, I envision a Girl Scout patch, and this is what I think it should be, but make it happen. And here's the end result. So I'm the kind of person I'll say, make it your own, do it your way, but here's what I envision success to look like. And when a new person comes on board, sometimes they want more guidance. And I'll say, no, you were hired because of your expertise. So feel free to make it your own. I'm not going to tell you the process to get there, but this is what the end result looks like. And the other thing about my management style, since we are a virtual organization, we are a results-oriented work environment, which means we don't have vacations. We don't have days off. You take as much time that you need off. You work around your family. My vice president she has 4 children. We've worked around the last 3 pregnancies. And so very hands-off, I treat you as an adult, and I expect results from you. So very much a hands-off. And that means that I have to hire self-motivated and independent people.
Right. And that also in alignment with your own preference for being led. Is your preference for your leader to be sort of hands-off in environments where you were not founder?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm more like, just tell me what the end result should look like, and I'll make sure it happens. So
I'm sure that's refreshing for those who work for you. I'm sure it's refreshing for them to hear. I love it. And I love its play on just trucking, on direction, on finding the path or finding the road that makes sense. I love it. And what advice would you give to other women, right, who may not be on a list like the Social Impact Women to Watch or some other prestigious list, but no doubt are doing incredibly impactful work? What words of advice can you share with them?
Well, I would say believe in yourself. A lot of women share that they have imposter syndrome, or especially when you're in a male populated environment and you sit at a board room and you think, well, what are they going to think of me? Or do I really have the correct answer? My response is, you do, or you wouldn't be sitting at that table. So you were hired and you were given that authority because of what you know, and use it and be confident that you do have the information that they're looking for.
Wow. I mean, that's empowering. Do you find that you have to offer that type of motivation or inspiration in your environment regularly?
Oh, absolutely. I do a whole presentation on unconscious bias, and a lot of it is we hold ourselves back. A lot of women don't believe that they're ready for the next step, but yet their male bosses might say, well, you're ready for this role. And they're like, oh, no, I'm not, because we think we have to check off all the boxes. In fact, a Hewlett-Packard study said that women feel they need 100% of the qualifications to apply for that career advancement or that next job, where men will apply at 60%. So we need to say, okay, I've got 60, 70% of the qualifications. I can learn the rest, or they can teach me. Because as one woman said to me, if you already have 100% of the qualifications for that next step up, shouldn't you be going to the step above that?
Wow. Oh, wow. I love that logic. So, You mentioned a little earlier about where your membership base is, and I know you said it's outside of the States as well. Where do you see the trend for trucking growing for women around the globe?
Well, a lot of countries are looking at us here in the United States and saying, how did you get to almost 14% female commercial drivers? Because there is a need for good drivers, and women make great drivers. And so I get the opportunity to go to places like Sweden and Australia and Vietnam and New Zealand and talk to them about what are we doing in the United States to, first of all, to attract women into the industry, and secondly, to make sure that they're successful. And so I see us, we actually have members in 10 countries, and I see us maybe starting chapters in the future, or having more organizations overseas so that our continued expertise and resource can be used to help other countries expand their women in trucking as well.
You're doing the good work. It's so wonderful to hear all about it. And I look forward to seeing greater impressions throughout the States and in other nations as well, especially where women are just craving, career opportunities for themselves, and to be able to do something that, has been off limits for some populations in other parts of the world, I'm sure is very inspiring to embark upon as an organization. What would you say is your greatest hope for your mission? And how do you see yourself bringing that to fruition?
So it's kind of funny because I think at some point, I hope that we don't need a Women in Trucking Association, because I hope that women are as plentiful in supply chain careers. And so my hope is that women will see that they can do this job, and more employers will advance women in leadership roles and as drivers. And at some point, women will be just as comfortable getting in the cab of a truck as they would doing another waitressing or teaching or whatever. But I just want it to be a level playing field.
Yeah. I mean, and, regarding women being in the cab and all the things we talked about earlier regarding gender inequity and gender bias, on the flip side of that, how has the industry, or how have you seen the industry create accommodations or strengthen, the way that they support women on their career journey, considering they may have different needs inside the cab, especially for extended trips, especially for women who are returning back to work, say after, delivering, or caretakers who might be the primary caretaker, who might be thinking something different than the mostly previous population. What have you seen, or what are you seeing evolve as a result of the changing population?
Well, I've seen companies start to listen, especially to their drivers. I mentioned uniforms. Uniforms used to be made for men in the past, and now they're like, oh, wow, let's get a woman's cut, uniform. But recently it's been, how do we accommodate pregnant drivers? And also, what about nursing mothers? And recently we had a driver who, they have inward facing cameras in the trucks, and she wanted to pump breast milk. And so the company said, we never encountered this before, but put a ball cap over the camera so that you can pump breast milk. So it's like, and putting lactation rooms, making those available. So you would have never encountered those things 15 years ago, but
never.
No, but it's great because it's
fantastic.
Yeah, it's saying, we hear you. What can we do to accommodate you and remove some of these challenges?
Yeah, I love it. And when those barriers come down, you have so many more that are coming and saying, hey, that's something that I've always wanted to do. How do I get started? So kudos to you again, Ellen. Thank you so much for being a guest on The Switch by Nonprofit HR. And most importantly, thank you for the fantastic work and mission that your organization, Women in Trucking, is up to. It is very much needed, very much applauded. And I'm thinking here as a person who works for Nonprofit HR, what can I do to help? Your mission is just
tell women about the careers,
Well, thank you so much again for being a guest. Congratulations for being on the Women to Watch list for 2023.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Well, that's our show for today. How are you walking the walk as a leader in your organization? I loved when Ellen talked about that, how walking the walk is how you become a leader, because it's the only way to establish credibility and therefore trust with your people. And walking the walk before you're ready. For women especially. especially start before you're ready. I feel very empowered by that and by everything Ellen shared today, and I hope you walk away with something that empowered you as well from this episode. And I thank you for listening to The Switch by Nonprofit HR. If you're looking for more episodes, visit nonprofithr.com/The Switch, and there you can access recordings and resources and all the things to help your organization maximize its greatest asset, your people.